So I wanted to give you a session away from the classroom. So I wanted to just share some words with you to cover some aspects of the speaking of the philosophy and to try to bring forward some of the, the elements that maybe I haven't discussed in detail. And one of them is about your address. One of them is about looking at the address, but saying that does the address always have to bounce off of the labels that we've been speaking about? And so, as you know, we spoke about the umbrella, spiritualism being the umbrella. So I've taught you that. And I've also taught you that there's the labels within the umbrella, the soul, the spirit, and God. And beneath that, we have the subheadings like love, energy, power, compassion, personal responsibility, progression, life, heart, anything else that you deem as an area that would be relevant to speak about. And I guess the moment of understanding what an address is, what is spiritualist philosophy, makes your life easier. It makes it more palatable to understand how are you going to dissect or how are you going to arrange words that are going to be beneficial or touching or insightful or inspirational to your listeners. And one of those aspects is really about you understanding the delivery, which we've worked out. We understand what the delivery is, how to present. And another aspect is on that presentation, the address itself, as we speak about the labels that we've spoken about, should your address always just be on those labels? So should you only speak about God and the teaching of God, or the soul and the teaching of soul, or the spirit, or spiritualism? Spiritualist philosophy is about spiritualism, that way of life for the listener, that way of life where they can take from what you've said and make some kind of action from the words you've chosen to use. And so when you are speaking about a specific topic, that topic of spiritualism, life, God, the spirit, the soul, that's going to take you on a more soulful journey, if you like, or the listeners on a soulful journey as you teach about the progression of life, not just when we transition, but the progression of life before we transition. But it's to understand that that doesn't have to only be your style of address that you give. You can give an address that is about your life. You can give an address that leads on from a small aspect of you talking about your life to talking then about the listener's life, but leads on to some kind of teaching element. So to bring in current affairs is okay. To bring in your understanding of those current affairs, but to help the listener reflect on what you're sharing for themselves. Because all the way through, you're trying to give food for thought that leads to inspiration or leads their mind to feel inspired. And when they feel touched with that inspiration and they want to make notes, whether it's mental notes or written notes, but they want to make notes that when they leave, they can either go and investigate any of the facts that you may have brought forward or any of the action you may have encouraged them to do. And so it's knowing that, yes, we're speaking about the 5 pillars or the 4 pillars, if you like, you know, under the umbrella of spiritualism. But you can also talk about, decide to go down a thread and talk about current life. I've spoken from the platform about X Factor. And I remember when I brought that in, I can't remember everything I said, but I remember making people laugh, and I reflected what's happening on X Factor. I explained how I found it very inspirational, watching all these people build the courage to go on this show and show their array of different talents. I know that's on Britain's Got Talent, but the X Factor I spoke about was these people nervous, facing their fears and just doing it anyway. And while some were really great at what they were doing, obviously some weren't so great. But then, you know, the reflection is on the audience. What are you doing really great? How are you living your life to the greatest good for yourself and for others? And so I was able to move from speaking about what I felt passionate about, or what I felt inspired by, the inspiration I was getting from watching X Factor, but turning it to the listeners and giving them food for thought, giving them reflection, and asking them about their life. And so that is another avenue. So we might have the soulful aspect, if you see what I mean, when we talk about this, what's under the first layer, under the spiritualism umbrella. And then so the next bit may be a different style of giving that address, maybe on your consideration of current life. So it becomes relevant to the listeners, and they are being able to reflect, and you can build that rapport with them because they understand, yeah, there is earth-shattering things going on right now in the wars. That is something that they know is happening because they're living through it. And you could just move on to say how they could make a difference in that life, well, whether it's them praying, setting that intention, or doing some kind of action. And that action, are they fundraising and doing some form of fundraiser so that money can be sent to the charities dealing with those coming from Ukraine or other countries. So that's one thread. That's another thread, isn't it? Talking about that. And then you've got your other thread. And that other thread is talking about the principles, just the principles themselves. But really, the principles should come in every address you speak about. The principles should be the foundation of what you bounce off of. So even though you might speak about spiritualism, spirit, God, soul, heart, love, energy, power, whatever you want to speak about, the principles must come into play, because the principles are that foundation. And if should you ever get lost, or should you ever feel stuck, or you're about to freeze in your mind, you think, oh my God, I don't know what else to say. Consider one of those principles that are relevant right now and talk from the heart. The other aspect of an address is waffling, just rambling, making no sense, making absolutely no sense at all. But you might in that waffle speak about the I, me, self. And when you're speaking about yourself for 5 minutes straight, you've already turned off half of the audience anyway. Then you're going to hear the sweet papers, the sweet wrappers rustling. Then as you look around, you might see someone yawning. And as you look around, you might see someone ruffling in their bag, or you might see someone on their phone, or someone going through their hymn book. And so you really need to work on your craft. Now, you're not waffling and you're not rambling. because you had the training and you've understood what it means. We've reviewed speakers, we've reviewed the way that people can really look polished, but yet they just ramble, or maybe not ramble, but they've rehearsed their talk for so much or so often that they do it in a robotic way, and there's no emotion, there's no passion, it's almost like the breath is also been marked down. This is the time I'm going to make a breath. This is the time I'm going to stop. This is the time. No, it should be organic. That breath should be organic. Now, as my students, I've always told you, the power is in the silence. Because you allow people to follow what you're saying, but you're allowing them to breathe, I think is what I'm trying to say. So I'm not working with a script, as you probably know. You know, I don't tend to do that. But what I am wanting to do is just to say to you that even though we're working on the umbrella of spiritualism, if you like, and speaking about God and the soul and the spirit and the heart and the power and the energy and all of that good stuff, even though I'm trying to get you to speak inspiration on that, and you're doing a fantastic job, I don't want you to feel you've always got to talk in that style, because your style should be a conversation. Your style should be speaking truthfully and authentically from your experience, your way of living, your morals, the way you consider life to be, your own philosophy on life will come into play in the way that you speak to others. And so I guess I'm trying to say to you, just be natural. Whilst it's okay to write a written address, whilst that's okay, and we've done that, and I think it's good preparation for people who are really new or so terribly nervous and so anxious and so worried and petrified and all these things. I think it's really important that they don't start speaking inspirationally first. That's just my opinion. My opinion is know how to present, know how to deliver the talk. So when you know how to present to an audience and you know how to capture their attention and you know how to speak upon your topic, that leads the minds of the listeners to feel captured in the moment of you speaking, and then to make them want to make change for themselves. That's when you really make a difference. And I feel that too many people who are learning to speak from the platform, some get great training. It's wonderful to see those speakers stand up and give their talk and to be so inspirational in that. But yet there are some that feel, I just got to get up and I just got to talk about me, why I came into spiritualism. Leave that why I came into spiritualism for a night in with friends and guests, where you title your talk, How I Came into Spiritualism. So your audience are for those that are interested in why you came into spiritualism, but don't leave the platform, the divine service platform, to be the place where you deliver this, because who really wants to hear it, to be honest with you? Who really wants to hear about you for 10 minutes? I mean, unless you've got some kind of really outstanding I don't know, life where you've shared something to make me sit on the edge of my seat and to make me feel I want to do that too, or I want to work towards that. Unless it's something to move me, I don't really want to know about you. What I want to know about is God. What I want to know about is the power, to stay in that power. I want to know about life. I want to know, how can I enrich my life more than what it is? I want to know about when I die, when my physical body has died, when it's no longer able to sustain a life or sustain my soul, my spirit, my personality, my consciousness. I want to know that when I transition and my body is cremated or buried, I want to know there's a life for me. And so your talk has to be that. Your talk has to teach people about eternal life. It has to teach people about re-establishing their connection with their God of their understanding, to create a space within them to question their service to others in this life. Could they do more? Could you do more? Could you do more study than what you're doing? Could you do more practice than what you're doing right now? Could you say, I really want to enhance what I'm doing. I really want to enrich what I'm doing. All the external stuff, can I put it down and just develop? And develop in a way that is spiritually led. Because you have to ask yourself, are you the one that just wants to be on platform? Quick, 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 quick. Are you the one that wants to be able to learn so that you can open up a school yourself? Quick, quick, quick. Are you thinking about the longevity of what you're doing? Are you thinking about the impact on others, that should you not work on your skill behind the scenes, away from the public forum, and should you not develop in a way until you're naturally ready? And so you, because of your mind thinking everybody else is out there, I don't want to miss the boat, so let me hurry up and go and do it. Will you be putting your best foot forward? Will you be making a difference to those people's lives? So when your listeners come in and you've got the congregation, will they be taking what you say for gospel? Will they be engaged in what you're saying? Will they feel touched by your soul to their soul? It's really important to focus on self and understand that because others are doing it, doesn't mean we've got to do it. If you look at life right now, we've been told that we don't need to shield anymore. If we have COVID, we can still go about our day to day. We don't need to shield from it. We don't need to wear masks. Just because they say that doesn't mean, as your choice to wear a mask or not, you choose not to wear it. Or do you consider that it's my choice and I want to? The idea of what I'm trying to say to you is to re-look at your reasons for wanting to develop as a speaker. Because I believe that if you develop and you practice, you see, I feel at this moment in time, and I may change my views as I grow in my own development. But I feel at this time, it's really important to focus on the speaking more than the mediumship right now. I know it sounds, a bit weird. Mediumship is needed, of course it is. Mediumship is saturated, if you like, with a tsunami of mediums, untrained mediums, mediums who feel that they don't want to learn from an establishment because it should be spirit-led, fair enough. But if they do it and they do it well, fantastic. There are many mediums out there who don't have a qualification, but they don't need a qualification because they're really in tune with spirit. So that's great, isn't it? But your speaking, if you work on your speaking, you are learning how to demonstrate in front of an audience. You are learning, when I say demonstrate your address or your talk. And so when you learn and become comfortable addressing an audience, and you're able to command that silence from them, and I say command that silence where they are sitting, listening, not like what I said earlier, the rustling of the sweet papers, the interest of the mobile phone or skimming through the hymn book, but where you can capture their attention so that they listen, so that they pay attention, so that they want to talk to you afterwards about it. Wow, I really felt that was for me. I think I'm trying to say to you that look after yourself, and look after yourself in a way where try not to get caught up in the addiction of the mediumship. And when I say the addiction of the mediumship, it's not to downgrade it, because this is what makes us different from any other religion, that action of it, and so you need it. But imagine if you were to put your tools down for it and you gave 1 year just that giving public speaking, just that your training, you focus on your training, and all the services, all you do is you ask them, I'm happy to be the speaker, I'm happy to be the speaker. And you just did the speaking engagement. Imagine where you would be after a year if you've honed in on the way that you present, if you've honed in on the understanding of the spiritualism life. Imagine you honed in and you was able to switch to speak about the soul aspect of it, but you were able to also bring in a current situation, and you was also maybe able to bring in something, a reflection about you into that. But combined with it all, you were able to teach the audience about the benefits of spiritualism to them and how they can be of service, how they can receive, and how they can grow. So that is something to consider for yourself. Because if you are practicing all sorts, like the all sorts sweets, you open a pack of all sorts and you don't know what sort you're going to get. You might have less ability in one. So in the all sorts bag, the little jelly tots, you might only have a couple in there, but with the licorice or something else in there that you don't really like, you might have tons of it. In a bag of all sorts, it's not very balanced, the sweets. I know, because I used to eat them. The point I'm making is you need to find balance in what you're doing. Otherwise, there'll be a burnout at some point. Now, I'm not saying the burnout will be for you necessarily, but I'm saying your soul might cry out for more. And if you don't listen to your soul, then you'll always go through life feeling just not quite in the right lane for you. So it's really important that you consider, am I in the right lane for me? Is mediumship the right path for me? Is speaking, doing an address, the right place for me? Is that my right lane, or is it healing? And we know mediumship brings healing. We know speaking can bring about healing. Healing is what spiritualism is. Spiritualism brings that healing because the knowledge that life continues after life is the healing aspect in itself, because we know all those that we've loved, all those that you've loved and still love, you know that they live on. You know that your loved ones have made it to the other side. You know that your loved one that you've recently lost, whoever that would be, however long that would have been, you know that they made it. And you know that in the spirit world, while you may have at that time been sad and lonely and upset and in bereft at your loss, there is a party and a celebration going on somewhere else for the arrival of their loved one that they haven't seen in a long time. And so learning how to give an address means that you really should be considering understanding what spiritualism really is, understanding the principles, but understanding you don't just have to speak about the soul and the spirit in an address. You can speak about current events. You can make people laugh. It's okay. You don't have to give a serious address. You can make it upbeat if you want, if that's in your character. It's not to try and be a comedian, and it's not try to force a joke, a pre-written joke. It must be organic. But show yourself, show who you are, speak to your congregation, speak to them, not at them. Show them that you also walk the steps that they walk. But you've been enlightened by your development and your learning and your understanding that spiritualism has worked for you. And you might want to give some kind of mini aspect to that, so that they can relate to it, so that they can understand, oh, wow, you've gone through it as well. And so when you're talking to them, when I've said to you to mention the word we, or to remove the word we, it's to use the word we to be collaborative with them, to be collective, to show a collectiveness, if that's a word. But when you're moving from that space of the we to the you, you're then talking to your audience individually and at the same time. Isn't that beautiful? And so this impromptu session was just to share my thoughts with you and to let you know that there is only one style of giving an address to your audience. And do you know what that style is? It's your style. So practice. You don't need an audience, a physical bodied audience, to sit and listen. You already have a team of people in the spirit world ready to listen. You've just got to take that expectation. It should be the physical people that to listen. They are going to listen to it at some stage. But are you practicing from behind the curtain, or are you using the platform as your playground? I feel that the platform isn't the playground, shouldn't be used as the playground. The platform, when you stand to step up onto the platform, you walk up those steps with the responsibility, the understanding of your responsibility, that those people who might seem uninterested at the very beginning, for those people that are walking around on camera, busy doing this, busy doing that, for those people that may be eating their dinner when they shouldn't be on camera, and for those people that are there just to listen, perhaps what you say will make them put their fork down. Perhaps what you say will make them just actually sit down. The idea is that you know that if you speak from a place of truth and true intention, you cannot go wrong. If you understand what the principles mean, you cannot go wrong. If you understand your God and you understand the importance of spiritualism life, and you understand that your audience, whomever they may be, individually sitting there, they're there because there's a need in them. And some people will say, well, I just go along, I don't need a message. I just go along, something to do. There's a need in them. Every single person that attends a divine service, there's a need in them. Because if you say to them, we've got your Auntie Jo here. Oh, no, I don't need to speak to Auntie Jo. I know she's there. I think that's very, very rare somebody would say that. If you say, I've got your Auntie Jo here, and she says that, do you remember the time when you walked arm in arm past the croissant shop? I always got to lead it to food for some reason. And you both stopped for a croissant. And that is where you met your husband. I'm just making that bit up. That's great. And so that's the mediumship bit, isn't it? That's that mediumship aspect where you can touch somebody with the memory, but you can also touch people with words and guidance, words of hope, words of inspiration, words of life. For life matters. Life is eternal. The parent that God is to all of us, that we understand that for us to be able to walk through this life, we understand the true parent. We understand that God, the energy of all consciousness, is at one with us all. And so, my dear friends, I shall say to you that as you continue growing and developing, know that when it comes to you giving your address shortly, soon, in our presentation, I want you to recognize that when you get there with no paper, no prescript, no idea of what you're going to say, trust. You have in your mind what spiritualism is. You have in your mind the ability to recite the principles. And that is where you springboard from. You are speaking to inspire, to teach a principle for the benefit of those listening in such an authentic way that is individual to you, that they feel your heart, they feel your soul, they are touched by the presence of God, and they understand and feel more uplifted than when they first came, and a need and a want to either themselves go on to develop speaking or go on to develop and extend their curiosity or look into their curiosity, however the words are. But they say goodbye at the end of the service, or the end of the evening, and they say goodbye. And they say goodbye because they are excited for tomorrow. My name is Anne-Marie Bond, and I shall leave you with those thoughts.